Welcome to another edition of Don Hammond's Arlington Weekly News. Once again, I'm doing a variety of different character voices until someone complains. Here's the lineup for this week. The news, of course, Community Bulletin Board, and 55 Plus News. We'll also have some more on-the-ground reporting. That's the show. Now here's the social media reminder. You can watch us on YouTube at Arlington Weekly News and the number 1, also on Facebook, and you can listen on the radio at WERA 96.7 FM. Now, on to the news.
As of Sunday evening, September 27th, reports show the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Arlington had exceeded 3,900. Regular viewers and listeners will note the continuing increase in our reported numbers. Meanwhile, Virginia Governor Ralph Northam sent out a message after announcing that he and his wife had tested positive for COVID-19. The governor expressed thanks to Virginians for their concern and assured them that he was on the mend as he continues to perform his duties. Also, our friends at Arl Now have informed us that, and I quote, "The pandemic has claimed yet another local restaurant. This time, it's one of the oldest bars in Arlington." End quote. The restaurant was called Summers. It was a soccer bar at 1520 North Courthouse Road. Summers temporarily closed at the end of August, warning that the closure could be permanent if it was unable to obtain a permit for an expanded outdoor seating area. As it turns out, it will not reopen. The owner was not able to get the county permit and instead made the decision to close permanently. The restaurant's furnishings, from kitchen equipment to framed soccer memorabilia to the Tiffany-style stained glass lamps, will be offered for auction through October 13th. Summers had first opened in December 1982, and it showed soccer matches from around the world at a time before soccer became as popular as it is today. Nevertheless, the restaurant went on to serve millions of customers over its 38 years. Another problem was that rent increases made it difficult to make ends meet, as has been the case with other businesses in the area. Summers was set to close eventually due to a planned redevelopment of that block, but COVID-19 hastened the shutdown. The main dining area once held 150 patrons, but social distancing restrictions reduced that number to 16. Only a handful of participants would actually show up to watch the games, which made it hard to retain employees who relied on tips. Sales dropped by 95%, but the rent remained $20,000 per month. The owner was also unable to obtain a federal Paycheck Protection Program loan, thus losing another potential lifeline. A reopening at a different location will depend on whether any investors will want to help, perhaps as soon as next year. However, a new location would require more space in order to be viable, and such a place, at a reasonable rent, might be hard to find in Arlington. Also, an email arrived from Clean Water Action on Tuesday, September 22nd. It began, and I quote, "If we want clean water, action on climate, and a healthy environment, we need a healthy democracy. That means using our voices and our votes to elect leaders who will work with us to protect our water and people's health. Are you ready to be a voter?" End quote. The message encouraged voter registration, which is certainly a commendable idea, with the subliminal encouragement that recipients educate themselves about how to advocate for clean water. Again, certainly preferable to the dirty kind. It was nice that the message didn't ask for money, although they could certainly use some. One part of the message was striking in a whimsical way. It said, "Finally, pass this message along to at least 3 friends." Now, this last note is reminiscent of a pitch once used by a Hollywood movie theater many years ago. The theater offered some free dishes to anyone who would bring 3 friends to their next showing. Groucho Marx is reported to have said, and I quote, "They won't have to give away a single dish. Nobody in Hollywood's got 3 friends." Finally, in a year that's already been scary enough, this much is clear. Pandemic Halloween will be different from regular Halloween. Many traditional ways of celebrating are now considerably more risky than usual because now they bring the potential to spread the coronavirus. Accordingly, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has issued new guidelines on how to celebrate Halloween safely. Some of the new advice would have applied to pre-pandemic times. Avoiding crowded, boozy costume parties was always a good idea. The same applies to using alcohol and drugs, which can cloud judgment and increase risky behaviors. So, what is new? The CDC's guidelines group Halloween activities into lower risk, moderate risk, and higher risk categories. The higher risk category includes both door-to-door trick-or-treating and events where children get treats from the trunks of cars in a big parking lot. The guidelines also discourage indoor haunted houses where people will be crowded and screaming, which could send infectious particles flying. The same caution also applies to going on hay rides with people who aren't in your household or attending fall festivals in rural areas, which also carry a risk of spreading the virus that causes COVID-19. The agency suggests that kids could pick up individually wrapped gift bags at the end of a driveway or yard while still preserving social distance, which would be only moderately risky. Another only moderately risky activity would be a small outdoor costume parade where all the participants stayed 6 feet apart. An outdoor costume party would also be considered moderate risk if people wear masks and stay 6 feet away from each other. Haunted houses are discouraged, but haunted forests are tolerated. The CDC says that an open-air scare fest is moderately risky, so long as the route is one way, people wear masks appropriately, and stay 6 feet apart. However, they say, if screaming is likely to occur, greater distancing is advised. As for apple picking and pumpkin patches, risks can be reduced if people use hand sanitizer before touching pumpkins or apples, wear masks, and maintain social distance. Also on the moderate risk list, an outdoor scary movie night with local friends who are socially distanced. Again, the more screaming there is, the more space is needed for safe social distancing. To be really safe, they say plan for either virtual activities or ones that you do largely within your own household. The CDC's lower risk activities include carving pumpkins within your household or outdoors with friends while socially distanced. It also suggests a Halloween scavenger hunt, looking for witches, spider webs, and black cats outside houses while walking around, or a scavenger hunt for treats in your own home. As far as masks are concerned, the CDC warns that a costume mask is no substitute for a cloth mask, but that doubling up with one over the other can make it hard to breathe. Instead, They recommend a Halloween-themed cloth mask. A costume mask can protect against spreading the coronavirus if it's like a regular cloth mask. 2 or more layers of breathable fabric covering the nose and mouth without gaps around the face. They offer a final piece of advice to friendly neighbors. If you think you might have COVID-19 or that you have been exposed to someone who has, don't attend in-person Halloween activities and certainly don't hand out candy to trick-or-treaters. That's the news. Now it's time for Community Bulletin Board, or CBB.
Hello, and welcome to CBB. The Arlington County Library is encouraging patrons to take an escape with a romantic comedy and get to know Andy J. Christopher. Miss Christopher is the author of Not That Kind of Guy, and she'll be participating in a Zoom discussion of her book. Here's a brief description of the plot as provided on the library's website. State Attorney Bridget Nolan is successful in all aspects of her life except romance. After breaking up with her longtime boyfriend, she's been slow to re-enter the dating scene. To be honest, she has more important things to do, like putting bad guys behind bars. But with her brother's wedding right around the corner, she suddenly needs a date, and fast. Lucky for Bridget, the legal intern is almost done with his program. Matt Kiddo is dumbstruck by Bridget. Total love at first sight, but there's one problem. She's totally off limits while she's his boss. But the moment he no longer reports to her, Matt decides to take a chance. An impulsive decision takes them to Las Vegas, where, as the saying goes, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, unless you put a ring on it. The Escapism Book Club meets every 2 weeks. New members are always welcome, and while it is not a requirement to read the book to join, it is encouraged. Instructions to join the Zoom meeting will be emailed the day before the meeting to all registrants. That's on Wednesday, October 7th from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m. Now, here's an event for kids between the ages of 3 and 5 years. It's all about invertebrates. You know, animals without backbones. No, we're not going to make any political jokes here. These preschool programs are offered throughout the year at both Gulf Branch and Long Branch nature centers. The theme for preschool programs is repeated during the month, so please register for only one session at each nature center per month. Caretakers must stay with their child during the program, and registration is required. You can register online or call 703-228-4747. Just reference activity number 612810-G. That's coming up on Wednesday, October 7th from 4 o'clock to 4:30 p.m. Also, maybe you're looking for a way to make an environmental difference in your own yard, church grounds, or condo complex by creating a sanctuary for wildlife using native plants and other resources. If so, there's a friendly talk coming up called Gardening for Wildlife. It will reveal the whys and how of supporting local wildlife and will tell you how you can obtain an Audubon Home Wildlife Sanctuary certification for your garden. The speaker will be Alyssa Ford Morell, an Extension Master Gardener, Master Naturalist, and the Audubon at-Home Co-Coordinator for Arlington County. This event will be held via Zoom. You'll receive an email with the Zoom link and password and any additional materials 24 hours before the class. You'll also receive a reminder email with the Zoom link and password and any more additional materials 1 hour before the class. That's coming up on Friday, October 9th from 10 o'clock to 11:30 a.m. Now, finally, here's an event for families. It's called the Halloween Animals Campfire. You'll need to register both children and adults because children must be accompanied by a registered adult. The whole family is invited to join at the Long Branch Amphitheater for lots of old-fashioned fun. The program will be filled with entertaining activities that may include stories, special animal guests, games, songs, but of course there will be s'mores. For information, you can call 703-228-6535. You can register online or call 703-228-4747. Just refer to activity number 612950-D. That's on Friday, October 9th from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock p.m. at Long Branch Nature Center at Glen Carlin Park, 625 South Carlin Springs Road. Now it's time for 55 Plus News.
Howdy. Well, since the pandemic started, video conference calls have become the new way of getting together. Chances are you've already been on quite a few. And maybe you've noticed some of the pitfalls. Bob can't get his video to work. Janet is talking to her cat while she's not muted. And the presenter's camera somehow shows only his nostrils. Well, you can at least take care of yourself by attending Video Call Etiquette. It's a virtual presentation with tech guru Nick England, and he'll provide some tips to improve your own experience and the do's and don'ts of video conference calling. You can register online or call 703-228-4747. Just make sure you mention activity number 911403-18. That's coming up on Thursday, October 8th from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock p.m. Next up is something called Movie Discussion, The Two Popes. No, you don't get to choose which two popes. The Walter Reed monthly movie is going to go virtual, and they're calling all cinema lovers to discuss a new film every month. And this month's movie is called The Two Popes. But as I say, you can't choose because they're already in the movie. It goes behind Vatican walls where the conservative Pope Benedict XVI and the liberal future Pope Francis have to find common ground to forge a new path for the Catholic Church. Now, they say you should stream the movie before the meeting. That kind of makes sense for a discussion group. Register online or call 703-228-4747 and tell them it's activity number 911402-10. That's on Thursday, October 8th from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock p.m. Now, next up, you got another chance to get outside while the weather's still decent. It's called Acoustic Hour in the Park. You can enjoy live music and beautiful fall weather at the same time. There will be songs from the 1950s right on up to today, some great rock and roll, some ballads, folk, and blues, all performed by Phil Rosen and Ed Gyrovasi. Register online or call 703-228-4747. That's activity number 911802-4. That's coming up on Friday, October 9th from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock p.m. at Virginia Highlands Park. That's at 1600 South Hayes Street. Finally, whether you're a practicing artist, just a regular art lover, or just feeling kind of nosy, you might want to check out this next event. It's called Secrets Revealed, Famous Artists' Techniques. It's an interactive exploration of famous artists and their distinctive, sometimes secretive, techniques. Community arts programmer Jen Droblian will discuss the artist's methods and lead a hands-on activity so you can experience these special techniques. I wonder if they'll include Maxfield Parrish. He had a few tricks of his own. Register online or call 703-228-4747 and tell them it's activity number 911302-2. That's coming up on Monday, October 12th from 10:30 to 11:30 a.m. Well, that's about it for 55 Plus News. Now I guess we'll see what's going on the ground here in Arlington.
Some 20 days after the September 6th date on the displayed message, the Washington and Old Dominion Trail partially reopened at Little Falls Road at the edge of Arlington. However, eastbound travelers will still have some disappointments. The playground area is now accessible, but it is so badly overgrown that no child could use it safely. Also, as seems to be the usual, the newly accessible water fountain is turned off. In addition, anyone eager to try out the Lee Highway overpass will have to wait a while longer. The earlier detour has been shifted toward the bridge, and markings suggest that this new lane may be a permanent alternative to ascending the bridge. As critical as we are, we do want to applaud the addition of a bench by the trail. A waste receptacle and drinking fountain would have been even better, but at least the bench will be good for some people. Westbound travelers will observe a curious bit of sidewalk leading off to the left, but it comes to a dead end underneath the bridge. A recent article in the Falls Church News Press discussed that city's additional trail features, like separate lanes to help with social distancing, and an anticipated long-term increase in trail use. The article even suggests that areas like Arlington will follow, but we would point out that no one's perfect. Falls Church recently got rid of the Elwood Street Memorial Bench and Shelter and rather rudely dumped a large pile of gravel into the middle of their own bridle path. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The Arlington Falls Church area will be a really nice place if it ever gets finished. Finally, here's a word about what I call those lying pedestrian signs. The subject was raised at the most recent virtual town hall meeting when it was pointed out that the intersections with signs that say not to push the button because, quote, pedestrian crossing is automated, unquote, don't work very well. I tested this at the intersection of Lee Highway and North George Mason Drive. That intersection has a traffic signal with a leading green left turn light. It can be viewed from the west side of North George Mason Drive when facing north. During my test, I waited at a red light while the "Don't Walk" symbol was displayed, and that was appropriate. When the leading green signal came on, the "Don't Walk" symbol remained, and that was still appropriate. Then the leading green light turned yellow, and the signal then allowed all northbound traffic to proceed through the intersection, except the "Don't Walk" symbol, which failed to change. I waited in case there was some delay in the walk symbol coming on, but it did not appear, and the rest of the traffic lights finally stopped northbound traffic on George Mason and went back to allowing east-west traffic along Lee Highway. I wound up crossing Lee Highway at Harrison Street. On my return trip, I waited on the north side of Lee Highway. Once again, the pedestrian walk signal failed to appear. Sometimes The walk signal does respond if the button is pressed. It may be that some intersections only allow pedestrian crossings at alternate cycles, but that's no consolation for the pedestrian holding 2 bags of groceries and/or standing in the rain while they wait. If anything, pedestrians should be favored. And that concludes this week's show. We will be back next week with more news from Arlington. Meanwhile, be careful, be safe, and be well.
Singing cowboy, he's a two-chord wonder. Gonna have a fan base to the end of his days. When the sound is